He drifted into sleep without worry since the tiny research outpost had always felt safe. The summer heat on the frontier world was harsh, so he rested without clothing to stay cool. The cabin's air recycler hummed softly, and the night outside remained calm under a sky streaked with 2 moons. He expected nothing more than a quiet night. He did not expect to wake at dawn with an alien visitor pressing down on him in desperate need. When his eyes opened, he found himself pinned under a slender figure with luminous skin that shimmered faintly like morning frost. Her chest was low against his, and her arms were braced on either side of him. Her breathing was ragged, and her forehead touched his shoulder as if she lacked strength to lift herself. His first instinct was shock, yet it froze only for a moment. She was trembling, and her condition pushed aside any confusion. This was not an attack. It was a plea. He moved slowly so he would not startle her. She raised her head a fraction. Her eyes glowed softly like polished silver, and her voice came out weak. She stated that she had collapsed while attempting to reach him for help. She apologized for falling on him and explained that she could hardly stand. She told him her name was Lyra. It was a simple sound, and he accepted it without question. He asked what had happened. She explained that her people lived beyond the ridge, in deep forest zones rarely visited by humans. She had come because something catastrophic had swept through her settlement during the night. An unseen wave of energy had cut through the land like a silent storm. It weakened her entire clan and scattered them. She had escaped only by sheer luck, but the shock harmed her internal balance that her species depended on for survival. She needed contact with a stable, warm-blooded host to stabilize her circulation. Her body had detected the warmth in his cabin, and she had used the last of her strength to reach it. He realized that her collapse on top of him had been involuntary. Her species required physical grounding when in crisis. He told her she had nothing to apologize for. He guided her gently to lie beside him instead of on him and wrapped a blanket around her for comfort. She relaxed enough to breathe steadily, though fatigue still clouded her expression. He stood and dressed quickly as she rested. He assured her he would help her, and she nodded gratefully. He prepared warm hydration packs and checked his small medical kit, though he knew it would not be fully compatible with her biology. She explained further while sipping slowly. Her people could absorb stabilizing heat through close proximity, but they preferred to avoid contact unless necessary. The wave that struck them had been powerful enough to drain their ambient field, which they normally replenished from the environment. Without it, they weakened rapidly. She had sensed a stable pulse in his cabin while stumbling through the forest and followed it. As her last hope, he listened carefully. She spoke with calm precision, though he saw how much effort each word cost her. The incident was no random natural event. Her clan had detected something in orbit the previous evening, a machine of unknown origin. It had released the wave that crippled them. She did not know if it had been deliberate or a side effect of its arrival. She only knew her people could not resist another shock. They would perish. He made her promise to save her strength. They could talk more once she recovered. He supported her while she stood shakily and helped her lie on his cot where the cabin's heat regulators would keep her warm. After a short rest, she regained enough clarity to explain one more detail. The device in orbit might be a probe belonging to an old empire rumored across the sector. The stories claimed that its machines scanned worlds for dormant bioenergy sources. To the machines, her people might look like targets. He felt tension rise in his chest. The outpost crew had only 3 humans besides him. They lacked any defense. If the machine could drain an entire alien settlement, it could likely do the same to humans. The difference was that humans lacked the ability to replenish themselves from environmental energy. If the wave hit them, they could die instantly. He told Lyra he needed to alert the outpost. She nodded, though her anxiety showed. She urged him to be cautious. The machine would certainly release another wave to verify its readings. He promised to move carefully. He stepped outside with his communicator raised, but static blocked every channel. The machine had disrupted their grid. He realized the outpost equipment might be failing as well. He hurried back inside, and he told Lyra the situation. She struggled to sit up. She said there was one thing they could still do. Her people had a natural talent for sensing energy frequency shifts. If she had enough strength, she could detect the harmonic signature of the machine and help him locate it. But she needed more grounding than the blanket could provide. Her system required close thermal stabilization. Contact, prolonged and steady. He admitted he would. Help, however necessary. She asked if he was certain. He nodded. She placed her hand on his arm, and he felt a faint vibration, like a soft current. She asked him to sit beside her. He did. She leaned against him, and her trembling began to fade. He could feel her temperature rise slowly to a stable level. She closed her eyes and murmured that it was working. She apologized for the discomfort. He told her there was no discomfort. He was focused on the mission ahead. Minutes passed. Her breathing stabilized. Her eyes opened and her silver irises brightened. She said she was ready to attempt a reading. He helped her stand. She placed both hands against the cabin wall facing the rising sun. She inhaled deeply. She explained that the waves of the machine left faint traces across the air like ripples in water. Her people could sense them when attuned. She concentrated. Quiet filled the cabin. He stood close to ensure she did not fall. Her expression sharpened. She whispered that she had found its direction. North, beyond the valley and above the cliff ranges. It hovered low enough that they could reach it by climbing the high ridge if they moved quickly. But she warned that the machine might release another wave soon. She felt vibrations that suggested it was preparing to search again. He considered the risks. They could attempt to flee, but the valley offered little cover. The wave would find them regardless. The only hope was disabling the probe. He retrieved his field gear and handed her a light thermal cloak for protection. She accepted it gratefully. They began their journey at once. The forest was thick and peaceful. The tension lingered beneath each step. Lyra kept close to him for stability and to maintain her energy balance. At times she paused to sense the faint pulses in the wind. Each time she did, she directed him more precisely. The ridge loomed ahead like a jagged wall against the sky. They climbed steadily. He offered his hand, often to steady her. She accepted with quiet appreciation. Halfway up the ridge, she suddenly halted. Her eyes widened. She whispered that another wave was imminent. He grabbed her and pulled her behind a rock formation. She pressed against him instinctively as the faint hum of energy washed over the forest. Trees shook and leaves drifted down. His muscles tensed as the wave passed, but to his surprise, he remained unharmed. She explained that the rock formation and his natural field combined created a narrow pocket that shielded them. They waited until the tremor faded. When they resumed climbing, she moved more confidently. The stabilization earlier had strengthened her internal rhythm. They reached the ridge peak by midday. The clearing at the top revealed the machine. It hovered just above the cliffs like a metallic sphere with rotating plates circling its core. Pale lines of energy pulsed through it. Lyra studied it with quiet dread. She said its structure matched ancient stories from her elders. Machines left behind by an extinct species with goals no one understood. They moved closer. He examined the machine through his scanner. The plates shifted rhythmically, like petals adjusting to wind. He noted one pattern in the rotation that left a gap, a narrow moment where access was possible. He explained the concept to Lyra. She nodded. She said her people could disrupt energy fields by projecting their own pulse if synchronized precisely. But she would need exact timing. He would have to signal her. Together, they approached the sphere. Its hum deepened. It detected movement. A new pulse began forming at its core. He knew the next wave would be devastating at this range. Lyra stepped forward with steady resolve. She asked him to trust her. He said he did. He watched the rotation. He counted silently. When the gap aligned, he shouted the moment. She raised her hands and released a shimmering pulse of her own. The air cracked with light. The machine shuddered. Panels flickered. Another pulse surged from its core, but destabilized midway and discharged. Harmlessly across the cliffs, like scattered mist dot, the sphere wavered. Lyra gasped from exertion. He caught her before she collapsed. The machine pulsed rapidly, as if malfunctioning. Its plates spun out of rhythm. A loud hum filled the air, then ceased abruptly. The sphere dimmed and lowered until it rested gently on the stone surface like a disabled shell. He held Lyra as the wind settled. She whispered that the machine was dormant. It would not harm anyone again. She was weak but stable. He carried her down the ridge until she regained strength enough to walk on her own. She told him he had saved not only her, but her entire clan. Without his help, they would have faded by nightfall. They returned to his cabin before dusk. By then his communicator flickered back to life with faint signals from the other humans. He informed,